second graders. Hopefully you've already watched my video on adding with partial sums. Now we're going to practice subtracting with partial differences. So same idea. We'll take our numbers and we're going to break them apart into their chunks, basically the expanded form. We're going to subtract those chunks, and then we're going to add together whatever is left, and that will be our difference. Okay? So our first example is 45 minus 23. We'll start with a 2-digit minus a 2-digit, and then we're going to do a 3-digit minus 3. First step is to do the expanded form of both of those numbers. So down below, I'm going to just write out 40, because the 4 is in the tens place, so it's 10. That's 4 tens is 40, plus 5, because the 5 is ones, and then minus. So I'm writing it kind of the same way that I do up here. I'm taking those numbers apart. 23, the 2 is in the place, 20, and the 3 is in the ones place. 3 ones is 3. You guys all know expanded form really, really well. Okay, so I've just rewritten the problem, but with the numbers broken apart into our parts. Remember, partial sums, partial does mean the numbers into their parts, and then working with those parts. Okay, now it doesn't really matter which order I do it in now, but I can subtract 40 minus 20. 4 minus 2 is 2. So 40 minus 20 is 20. And then put a plus there. And then 5 minus 3 is 2. And then I add those two things together. 20 plus 2 is 22. So I've broken my numbers apart into their parts, into their expanded forms, subtracted the parts because I'm doing subtraction, and then what I'm left with, I put that back together. That's another expanded form answer, which is 22. Okay, we're going to do another example, but this time we're going to do it with 3-digit numbers. Okay, so this time we will do, I'm going to write it up to the side, 364 minus 231. Okay, there it is on the side. Okay, whoops, I need to draw my line underneath. You guys are all sitting with me, tell me that. All right, now just the same thing. I'm going to start by doing the expanded form of both of those numbers, rewriting the problem with both of those numbers in their expanded form, broken up into their parts. All right, so 364, number, we hear it when we say it, 364, right? So 300 plus 60 plus 4 minus, now I'm in the expanded form of 231. 200 plus 30 plus 1. Okay, there we go. I've rewritten my problem, just numbers broken apart into their expanded forms. It's the same problem. Okay, now I'm going to subtract the pieces. I will be given my answer in expanded form, and I just need to put it back together. Okay, ones this time. Again, it doesn't really matter when you do it this way. Minus 1 is 3. 6 minus 30, well, 6 minus 3 is 3. That's a double stack. So 60 minus 30 is 30. I'm going to put my plus sign in there. 300 minus 200, 100 plus 1. There you go. Now I have to put my number back together. That's my answer, is just in this expanded form. 100 plus 30 plus 3, that's 100. 3 tens, 3 ones. There is my answer, 133. Okay. All right. I'm going to do one last example. It's going to be where you would have to borrow, would have to regroup. It's not quite as pretty this way. It's not quite as clean. It still works. So we're just going to do one practice that way. Okay. All right. So let's go back to our first 2-digit minus 2-digit problem, which was 45 minus 23. Okay. I'm going to change it so that I have, right? So instead of 45 minus 23, if I make, you know how if I make the number on the bottom more on the floor, go next door, I'm going to make my ones than the ones on the top. Okay, so I had 3 down there. I'll just pick a number like 8, because 8 is definitely bigger than 5. So I know right away I'm going to have to borrow. I'm going to have to break a 10 apart into ones in order to do this subtraction problem. Okay? All right, so I'm going to do the exact same thing because we're doing partial differences. I'm going to write the numbers in their expanded form. We already know 45 is 40 plus 5. We just did that. Okay? But instead of 23 this time, now we have 28. So I'm going to do 20 plus 8. Okay? All right. Now this time, when I try to subtract the ones, 5 minus 8, I can do that. If I have 5 apples and I want to give apples to my friend, I can't do that. I don't have enough. So very similar to what we do with the algorithm, we're going to go over here and we're going to borrow one of those 10s, okay? If I take a 10 from 40, I am left with 30. So I'm just going to write that up there. And I'm going to add that 10 over here with my 1. I'll put a 1 in the 10s place and turn that into 15. So I have just borrowed. I've moved a 10 from my 40 over into my 1s. So instead of 40 plus 5, now I have 30 plus 15, which is still 5. It's still the same number. It's just been rearranged. Now I can do the subtraction. 15 minus 8 is 7. 30 minus 20 is 10. I have to put my plus sign in there in the middle. Put them together, 17. Okay? Now I mentioned earlier that it doesn't matter if you start with your 10s or your 1s. When there's one where you have to borrow, if you start with your 10s, if I had just said 40 minus 20, I would have said, oh, well, that's 20, right? And then I get over here and I would have said 5 minus 8. Wait, I can't do that? Then I would erase that and I would go back and start. Okay? And the 100th, go back, start with the 1s, and work your way that way. Number into chunks, and then subtracting each of those chunks, and that gets expanded form of your answer, and you just put it back together again. Okay? All right. Once you've watched this video, there are practice pages attached to this activity. In each of those practice pages, you're going to see 3 columns. Okay? So one column is where, let's say it's like this. One column is where you would have your problem. So let's say I had it like that. It might be written like that. Okay? The next column is where I'm going to write my expanded form of the problem. And I'm going to set it in the expanded form. Okay? And then the last column is where I'm going to write my answer. Just like that. And you'll notice on the practice sheet that one column is filled in for each thing. So you might be given just this, and you need to do the expanded form and subtract them and get the answer. You might be given just this, the expanded form, writing the problem, and then I'll come up with the answer. So you're going to fill in what's missing on both of those pages and show all of your work, okay? Remember, you're solving these problems with partial differences, not with the algorithm, not with a number line, not in your head, right? You still need to show your work with partial differences. If you don't do it with partial differences, I'm going to send it back and have you do it again. Just because it's important that you practice all of these strategies before you head off into 3rd grade, okay? I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope you have fun doing partial differences. And as always, if you need any help, come to my office hours, go to Mr. Cam's office hours, send me a note, and we'll meet anytime you need to. We're here to help. Okay? Good luck.